All right, so the assignment was to animate your character with idle, walk, and attack now. Okay, now don't forget you're gonna fine tune these animations with the timing so that your melee feels like a heavy or quick or whatever you're going for, and it really comes out looking smooth. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and make our sprites. I didn't draw anything. I just downloaded the Hero Knight from the asset store. So I'm going to do idle first. As always, you just multiple, highlight multiple sprites at the same time, drag them into the scene. Boom, makes the animation. So it's idle, anim. Alrighty, and let's go ahead. The one we made, let's just go ahead and rename him player. All right. So we have our idle animation. We need our run or walk. All right. I highlight all of those, drag those into the scene. Okay. Walk, anim. All right. I don't need this one at all. I'm just going to delete it. And then I need my attack. All right. So here's my attack sprites. Drag those in. Attack. Anim. All right. So I made the animator. I don't need him either. I just need the animation. All right. So what I also want to do is I want to get rid of these animator controls that they made for us. We're just going to make our own. Okay. So the animator controller is the square in the squares thing, or whatever that is. Okay. So I'm going to delete that. Boom. I'm going to delete that. Boom. I'm going to delete that. Boom. All right. Let's make our own animator controller. So down here in the project window, down here in the assets in nothing, I am going to go to create animator controller. I name it player controller. Can I spell maybe? All right. Let's go ahead and add our animations into our player controller. So I think I left them in here. There you go. So idle first. You want idle to be the default, so always add idle first. All right. Then walk. Then attack. All right. Now, just in case you drag them in the wrong order, you can always go to right click on one of them and go to set layer as default state, and that'll become the default. But we want to start an anim. That's kind of the tradition for pretty much any game. Idle. All right. So let's zoom in so I can see a little better. Okay, so we want these things to be able to transition all between each other. Normally we just had, last week we just had idle to walk and walk to idle, right? But think about any game you play, right? When you're standing still, can you attack? Yes, you can. So we got to do idle to attack and attack back to idle, right? But let me ask you this. In most games you play, can you run and attack at the same time? Absolutely. So we got to go from walk to attack and attack back to walk, right? So now that when you're in any one animation, you have more than one option of where to go to, programming gets a little bit more complicated, all right? So first things first, let's go ahead and set up our animator parameters. Okay, so click on parameters up here, hit click. The first thing we want is the walking parameter, and walking is going to be true or false. So we're going to select bool for boolean. Okay, walking. All right. And the other one we're going to make is a trigger for when you do the melee attack. Like you don't attack true false. You just do it and it's done. So trigger, and I'll name this one attack, I think. All right, cool. All right. Same rules from last time. Remember, we're not programming the animations themselves. We're programming the transitions between them, right? So to go from idle to walk, that's going to be this arrow here. First things first, uncheck has exit time. And we're going to take these sliders over here, take the beginning one to the end of the first one and the other one right before it. We don't want any like transition between the animations for 2D animation. That's more for like a 3D thing. And I'll get more into this probably next week. All right, so to go from idle to walk, then we want to make is walking true. That's the logic that we're going to go with. And then, of course, walk back to idles is walking false. All right. Again, uncheck has exit time. Adjust the sliders like so. And this time we'll say walking is false. So that's pretty simple. Um, and then we'll go from idle to attack. Well, we just want to call the attack trigger. So adjust the sliders again. It gets tedious. Okay. So the condition, attack, it's a trigger. It's not going to be true or false. Just attack. All right. All right. Cool. From walk to attack, the logic's going to be the same. So from walk to attack, we're just going to call the attack trigger. Okay. Call the attack trigger. But when we're during an attack, we're doing a little sword swipe, whatever it is, right? How does it know whether to go from attack to idle or attack to walk? Well, as it turns out, it's pretty simple. Um, from attack to walk, you just make the attack trigger. Just run the attack trigger again. Okay. No, I said that wrong. To go from attack to walk, we just make walking true again. You know, once the attack is over, it's going to go to the next something. So we'll make walking true. And then to go from attack back to idle, again, we'll just make walking false. Do, 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 do. Walking false. All right. So that's the logic that we've made up. It gets more complicated when we have more than three animations, but we're trying to kind of step our way into it. All right. Let's make sure our player has the right animator controller. So we gave it an animator. There's no animator there. Let's give it the animator. It is here. Player controller. Boom. So now it has the player controller. We also have to give them the script that all of you already have. Put it on the player. Boom. All right, has a script, walk speed, give it a number. Doesn't really matter what. All right, sprite renderer. Let's look at the script. Okay, I'll go through the script line at a time. All right, so we made a float for walk speed. That's just the decimal number that represents the speed of your walking. Um, public bool is walking. I don't even think we use that. Here we go. Line 9, public sprite render sprite rend. Okay, for us to turn the sprites, like flip them for when we turn around the other direction, we need access to the sprite renderer. So that's what that is. We'll go back over that later. Um, anim equals get component animator. That's kind of how the script grabs the animator controller. You can drag it in there manually if you make it public, but there's no point in that, okay? Anim equals get component animator. What that really does, again, is it in start at the very beginning, it's going to look for something, a component called animator, and then grab that. So that's how you kind of code the animator. And we'll get back to the sprite renderer stuff. All right. So this first if statement, don't worry about it. If the player is pressing right, go right. Remember, input.getKey means as long as they're pressing this button, run the code inside this if statement over and over again. All right. You don't need to do anything to that. Okay, this is where we kind of start getting to the animator programming stuff. Again, you should have the script, but I want to make sure you understand what we're saying, right? When the player presses the right arrow down, tell the animator that walking is true. Okay, input.getKey down when you press it down. Anim, that's our animator. Set boolean. Remember our parameter for walking was a boolean. It's either true or false. So we're setting that boolean walking to true. All right. I'll come back to this. Let me just kind of walk through the basic animator stuff first. All right. When the player releases the right arrow, that's input.getKey up, right? We're going to set the animator walking to false. Because remember, to go from idle to walking, we wanted walking to be true. And to stop and go back to idle, we wanted walking to be false. So we're just really programming these parameter changes in the code to do it automatically. All right. So, all right, this is the same thing as up above three if statements ago. If the player is pressing left, go left. This is the same thing as well too. If the player When the player presses down left, go to the animator and set the boolean walking to true. And the same thing for when you release it, you set the animator walking to false. All right, that's the same thing we did on the other side of it. The last one though, this is for the attack. All right, we arbitrarily made our attack button M for melee. Change it if you want to, right? So we said when we press down M, okay, when we press down the M, nm dot set trigger. Remember, attack wasn't a boolean. Attack was a trigger. You just call the trigger. It's not true or false. You just call it. Okay. So nm dot set trigger, and we named it attack. Did we name it attack? Yes, we did. Okay. That's it. Okay. Don't forget your semicolons, and that's going to send the animator the right parameters. All right. So let's test it out. Oh, there it is. All right. I had to hit Control P. All right. So when I hit right, it goes into walking. When I stop, it stops walking, right? And you can kind of see that in the animator, right? So let's look at it through the animator. Okay, let me make that a little bit more visible. All right, so I'm going to walk left again. All right, so when we're idle, right, you can see that walking is not true. When I start going right, walking becomes true. I'll do it again. Again, look over here, the parameter. When I go right, walking is true, and it goes to walking. When I stop, it goes back, right? And then the other thing was we said press M to melee. All right, melee is the one over here, the attack animation. All right, so I'm going to press M. Ooh, didn't work. Let's figure out why that didn't work. All right. Oh, it's happening really quick, right? There's a few ways that we can fix that. Let's experiment, right? One of the things we could do is we could play around with has exit time. So let me test this real quick. All right, so what I did is from attack. Well, the problem before was it was going to attack, but it was going to it for like a split second, right? I'll show you again. Let me unfix it. I was playing it before. It actually was calling attack, but it was just a tiny split second, right? Now, why is it doing that? Because I said from attack to idle, what do we have? We have walking false, and walking's already false because we weren't ready, right? That's why it's going back there too quickly, right? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to say from attack to idle, I want to turn the exit time back on so that kind of goes through the whole thing and then automatically transitions, right? I'll do that from attack to idle and from walk to idle. I'll turn exit time back on. That's kind of what that does. That makes it so that if it's off, if has exit time is off, then you kind of have complete control of the animator, but you don't always want that because there's sometimes unforeseen kind of things that kind of pop up. If you turn it on, you have less control over it, but things kind of go to the next thing automatically. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I'll keep going. All right. So from attack to idle, has exit time is back on. From walk to idle, has exit time is back on. All right, cool. I'm gonna hit play. And when I press M, boom, boom. All right, the melee attack is hitting good on both sides. Now, my character's turning around, right? And to do that, we have to access the sprite renderer and use sprite renderer.flipx. Let me explain. So the sprite that you added to your player is the sprite renderer. That's this thing right here, right? I can go back to my scene view. If I turn this off, there is no sprite. It's gone. So the actual art that you put in there is a sprite renderer, right? So what we're telling it to do when we want to go left is we're telling it to flip X, right? Flip on the X axis, turn the other way, right? And we're just doing that in code. So I'll go back to my player script. Remember, right is not flipped. Like normal is not flipped, right? So when we press down the right button, we should not be flipped. I'm explaining this backwards. When we press the left button down, we should flip then. Correct? Cool. Okay. So I'm going to go to the if statement where we press the left button down. Here we go. Input.get key down, left arrow. So when we press down the left arrow, we're taking sprite renderer, which is a variable that we made earlier. We made a sprite renderer variable called sprite ren, and we grabbed it with sprite ren equals get component sprite renderer. All right. So when we press down the left arrow, we also want to tell the sprite renderer to dot flip x equals true, as in tell the sprite renderer to flip x. So that when we go left, we face left, and then do the opposite. When we press down the right arrow key, get key down, right arrow, sprite renderer dot flip x equals false, so it unflips back the other way. Okay. Again, sprite renderer is true. It flips that way. Sprout render is false. It flips back the other way. And I believe that's the whole assignment. Don't forget, those melee attacks, I really want you to play with the animation window. Remember, it's this one over here. And really fine tune those attacks, okay? The animation window is what does that. This drop down arrow makes it so you can actually see them. Barely, they're kind of there. I think that's it. All right. Good luck. See you Thursday. Email me if you need office hours or you get stuck on something. And if it's something small, like you're almost there, don't worry about it because the first 10 minutes of class, as always, are for tech support. All right. That is it. Au revoir, everybody.